Morning folks, welcome to Crime Story. Now before we get too much into it, I want to take you back probably just before some of you were born. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon in a suburb of southwest Sydney called Cabramatta. There's a guy walking through a car park and he's checking the crowded car park and he's lifting the door handles and all the cars as he walks past. He's looking inside the cars, seeing what he can take or if he can steal the car. There's a Beats police officer, so a uniformed police officer. She sees what he's doing. She walks up to him, says, "Mate, stop what you're doing. Come over here. Show me some ID." As the guy goes to her, he reaches in the back of his waistband and he pulls out a semi-automatic gun and he puts it to her head. He looks into her eyes and says, "Bang." He then laughs and walks off. Now he goes into the back of the crowded pub. It was the Stardust. At that stage, this pub was run by a local outlaw motorcycle gang. We had the 5T dealing the heroin. It was the crime capital and the heroin capital of the entire southern hemisphere of Australia back at this time. My partner and I were driving up to get lunch at the time, so we're in the unmarked detective's vehicle. The call comes across radio and we go crashing straight down there. The police officer said, "He's gone through there." So we go through the back into the pub. When we get in there, the pub's crowded. No one's willing to help us as police. The bartender sees what we're looking for and he just nods. And he nods to a set of toilets. So we go to these toilets. Now I'm sure you've all used public toilets and shopping centres and things like that, and you'll know that the toilet door is very heavy. Okay, it's obviously for privacy reasons. The door is sprung and is very heavy. Now in order to open that door, we've got to use a technique called quartering. So we're leaning into that. Okay, I've got my gun out and we quarter. So you're basically opening a quarter of a time, pushing through, holding it up and just revealing a little bit more each time. What was possibly 20 seconds seemed like an eternity to get this door open. We opened it up, couldn't see the offender. There were 3 toilet cubicles. The toilet cubicles come almost away to the ground, so we couldn't see if anyone was standing in there or they could have even been standing on a toilet seat. So my partner comes through, he kicks the first door open, and then I cover the entrance. Second door, same thing. We got a third door. We know that there's a guy in here with a firearm. He's put it to the head of another police officer. We're fairly sure he's prepared to use this firearm. On the third one, my partner kicks the door open. I've covered the area. He's not there. What was beside the third cubicle used to be a small entrance, a small area about that wide, where the janitor would keep his mops and his buckets and things for cleaning. Since we'd been in there a few months earlier, that had been opened up and it was now a 2-way bathroom. It went through to the gaming lounge. So we go through to the gaming lounge and again, it's set up like an island and it's dark and there's lights flashing, there's music playing, all the dinglings of the poker machines, smoke filled, and we have to walk around. So make sure we're checking everybody's face to see if he fits the description that we'd been given. We've cleared that island of poker machines and we just see a shard of light like you can see coming between the curtains there. And it disappears, so it's gone through a door. We go running out that door and it goes into an alleyway. We see the offender about 50 metres ahead. We call on him to stop. At that moment, he is next to a truck and there's a flatbed truck from a company called Mr. Plywood. There's a guy who's ratcheting up the straps on his delivery. He's about to deliver some wood. As we call on him to stop, he has grabbed the bloke, pulled him in front of him, put the gun to his head and taken him as a hostage. We could not get a shot. At that time, however, another police officer has turned up further down the alleyway, a highway patrol, and he has taken a shot. It should never have been taken, but he took a shot. Somehow, as the offender has put the hostage into the truck, the bullet has gone just behind him and only just missed. So he puts the guy into the truck, pushes him across to the driver's seat and says, "Drive." And off he goes. Now he goes around the corner. 200 metres down the street is Cabramatta swimming pool. There is a primary school having a swimming carnival at that time. Just as he approaches that, the offender leans out of the truck window, holding onto the strap, and he starts shooting back as we are chasing him. I can still remember teachers, parents, kids just scattering everywhere. The truck goes up over the railway overpass, comes back, and he actually goes past Cabramatta police station, where 3 or 4 more cars have jumped in the chase. down to the Cumberland Highway. Most of us, I've seen some of the areas that you are from, you probably are all aware of the Cumberland Highway. So we've got 3 lanes each way. It goes from Parramatta out towards Liverpool. He is driving down the Cumberland Highway still shooting. So the police cars are swerving, they're going everywhere. We're dropping back. We're dropping back so we're not going to get hit. And also maybe we're affecting the chase. Maybe we're causing him to shoot more. But he continues shooting. He does a full lap. He goes straight back, almost where he started from in Cabramatta, just around the corner, jumps out of the truck. We've gone flying up behind him. I've run around. I'm standing behind a row of parked cars. I'm leaning on the roof. I've got the guy lined up. Again, I can't get a clear shot. There's pedestrians, there's customers, there's people running everywhere. Directly behind us is the train station and the bus station. There are thousands of people around. The guy sees me, he looks up and he shoots. And he's hit the brick wall just behind me, missed my head by about that much, hits the brick wall behind me, the brick's shattered. I can still feel the shards landing in my hair to this day. Ducked down, taken cover. At that point, he goes into the pharmacy, goes to the back of the pharmacy. He's let his truck hostage go, but then he gets the pharmacist, takes him hostage, nuzzles the gun up into his ribs, walks him back to the front of the chemist, and he looks out. And I'm going to stop the story just there for a minute. And I'm going to say, folks, welcome to Crime Story. My name's Luke Taylor. I was a detective for 14 years, obviously in Cabramatta. Started off in Blacktown. I'm a Westie. I've grown up. Worked a little bit of time at Windsor as well, but Cabramatta was probably my most favourite place to work. Then in the last few years of my career, I went and joined child protection sex crimes, which is a horrible area to work in, but a very rewarding one as well. And from there, we transferred up the coast to Port Macquarie, and after a number of really dodgy events, got out of the police and then went and became an English teacher. So for the last 12 years, I've been an English teacher, done a lot of work with what we're doing today, experiential learning, where it's hands-on, and experiential literacy and things like that, and working with communication. So what we're going to be doing today, folks, is we're going to be working on some communication and resilience. And you're going to be doing it as we investigate and as we work through a couple of scenarios today. But I'm just going to take a breath for a minute, and I'm going to let my wife introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Crime Story. My name's Brenda Taylor. Luke and I are married. We met in the police. I joined in 1995, and I've been told to use the microphone. I don't like these things, so I joined in 1995, where I met Luke. He was in my class down at the academy, and it was good. It was great to be down there doing what we did. I came out of the academy and went to my first station at Mount Druitt, and then I went to Blacktown, where I spent the next 10 years there doing various different things. I was plain clothes, did lots of undercover work, summons and warrants for a good while, a domestic violence liaison officer, and many other different things that come under the umbrella of policing. We moved to Port Macquarie, and I went to work at Kempsey for a short time. It wasn't long before I got out of the job, so there's only so much of the job that you can actually take in before it starts to affect you. And I'd been to some pretty awful jobs in the past. So I got into teaching, and I went to work at a small school in Port Macquarie, working with year 11 and 12. I started off with kindergarten, and they said, "Oh no, you can go and work in year 11 and 12." And I was their study manager and looked after them for a good while, for the next 10 years before I taught literacy to year 7, 8 and 9. And Luke was at that particular school during that time, but he went off to work somewhere else where he learnt, other things and became the head of English. So Luke has organised Crime Stories, put all this together, and we hope that you really enjoy it today. We've been doing this for a year now on the road, travelling all over the state, so we'd like to welcome you all and hope you enjoy.
Excellent. So that event ended quite peacefully. Now, you probably noticed it's a really warm room today, and I'm wearing a jacket and I'm sweating. One of the reasons also is as I retell that story, okay, it's very real. okay, PTSD and things like that. And it's not just common to police, it's common to every single person in every part of the world, in every job, everything that you do, okay? And so we're very aware of trauma and things like that. So today we're going to be dealing with some issues, and we're going to be talking about a little bit about domestic violence, child protection, and a few things like that, in a hope that we can start to build some resilience to what we face every day. Now, there's a reason I wanted to share that really graphic story with you, and it's because what has that got to do with property management? I've got a room full of property managers, and I used to love that story, and it used to be an integral part of my telling to my psychologist, my psychiatrist, everyone I went through, because I thought it was this big thing and this big event, and I had to deal with it. And it was interesting, but I also thought it was unique. But then I met a property manager, and I listened to the role of a property manager, and I thought, hang on, there's some similarities here. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of what just happened and some of the elements of that crime. So there was an armed offender. 15 shots were fired in total. An innocent hostage, and his life was threatened, obviously, by the threat of being shot, but also the traffic conditions, the fact that the police may have been trying to also take out the offender, which one police officer did. The initial highway patrol officer who had obviously taken the shot. We got the initial uniform officer who had the gun put to her head. 4 police cars in the chase. There was an entire swimming pool, school carnival, parents that were ringing and trying to find out what was going on. We had headmasters back at the school contacting parents. 200 witnesses in cars. There were dash cams, phone calls, phone cameras. There were council CCTV operators with 19 cameras trying to monitor that when they came back into the CBD. 1,000 pedestrians, shoppers, business owners. The State Protection Group were called in. The police negotiators were called in. Police radio, who monitored and maintained control of that situation. Pole Air. There was Channel 10 flying around filming this, trying to put it live to air at the time. So we had media exclusion zones that were set up. We had the trains and the buses stopped at Warwick Farm and at Fairfield to stop the trains and buses coming through. There were 30 more police on foot at the scene. There was a second hostage at the pharmacy. Every one of those people, thousands of people, everyone was involved in that incident. Every one of them had an objective, but no 2 objectives were the same. Even similar objectives had different process goals in where they were heading and what they wanted to achieve. There were actions and consequences. Flight or fight kicked in with everybody involved. It was adrenalized through like 1,000 circulatory systems. Everyone was reacting. The offender, the police, the public, the hostages, they were all competing interests. And every time the offender took action or the police took action, there was another reaction that was unpredictable and largely uncontrollable. There was no plan, no prediction, and again, adrenaline was fueling survival instincts until emotion took over. So once that adrenaline died down, then emotion takes over, and then you have a completely different situation. So the objectives, we've got evasion against apprehension. We've got avoidance versus involvement, because not everybody wants to get involved. Some people are trying to avoid that situation. It even happens to the police who are trained for these situations. And of course, we have safety versus danger. And the most unified group in that entire event were the police. And yet we still had all of these challenges and all of these things to overcome. We had competing interests. I wouldn't take a shot. I did not think I was trained and it was safe to take a shot at any stage because of the amount of public around and also the hostage. I could not shoot. Another officer made a choice to shoot. He had the SPG marksmen turn up, snipers, whatever you want to call them. They were laying in positions. We had a couple on roofs opposite. We had people on the ground. They liked to take a shot. But then we had the negotiators. They obviously like to talk people out. Then removed from all of this, you've got a thing that we call VKG, which is police radio. It just has a weird acronym. It doesn't stand for anything. And you have a DOI, a duty operations inspector, and he's in charge of everything that is going on. And he has to react and call the shots based on what we are relaying back through the police radio. How heavy is the traffic? What's the situation? And he can make those decisions to call things off and try and calm the situation down. So you've got a communication and a miscommunication nightmare going on. In the end, the SPG said that their communications weren't working. So we've got negotiators and the State Protection Group working together. They come out together, and yet their communications to each other weren't working. So in the end, we actually had an SPG marksman doing the negotiating. And so that communication, even in that situation, who has the right of way, who has the right of say, and who is in charge, it changes every second in that situation. In the end, and again, even negotiating with a hostage, you've got to communicate, you've actually got to give them some power as well in this negotiation. So this power imbalance is all the way through, or you have this communication. As I said, that's like a once in a career job. I've had a couple like that only because of where I worked and where Brenda worked. We were in some of the busiest areas, Blacktown, Mount Druitt, Cabramatta, places like that. And it's a communication and management nightmare. And I thought, again, is that unique to policing? And then I met a property manager. So I've got a good friend, Alex Glenn Holmes, who is up in Port Macquarie. And I told her this story one day at a business function. And she looked me in the eye and she said, that policeman who had the gun put to her head, she said, that's a property manager. And I'm thinking, well, you're not a cop. She said, no, I've had guns, I've had knives, physical violence, because I was working front of house. She said, the cars and the pedestrians that were running mad, doing what was in their own self-interest. She goes, they're my clients. She goes, it's all about self-interest. Everyone I'm working with as a property manager has their own self-interest. She goes, owners wanting higher rents, longer leases, shorter leases when things aren't good, flexibility, tenants wanting reduced rates. I made a list of everything she said. Prospective tenants turning up 100 deep to try and get a rental property. Like it's an emergency, because it is an emergency. You know, people could be homeless. Abused tenants, domestic violence indicators, child protection, landlords ignoring repair requests, tradies wanting access, landlords not paying, tenants in arrears. We've got tenancy tribunals, rental bonds, inspections, crazy, angry, emotional, busy people, and you are at the centre of all of that. As a property manager, you are that hub. You have all of the spokes of the wheel coming back in, and you are controlling that. I was unfortunate enough to be at the scene in Fairfield Heights, a very popular and well-known real estate agent from Pretty Real Estate in Fairfield. This is about 20 years ago. He became the centre of a crazed man, basically. He was his fascination, he was his obsession, and he thought that he was a part of some big conspiracy. He thought that this real estate agent controlled everything in his life and was, you know, and was just so central to everything that he became manic over. This guy had a shed full of improvised explosive devices at his home in Fairfield, and he goes in there one day and he pulls out a machete and he absolutely butchered Mr. Pretty. When we've turned up, because this was in Fairfield Heights, I was only a couple of kilometres down the road at Cabramatta, and my grandmother lives at Fairfield Heights. So I've gone rushing up there, and we had hundreds of police in the street. We couldn't even see in the windows of the real estate agent. It was just covered in blood. Even when this lunatic came out and everyone attacked him with big battering rams and shields, a mate of mine still had his arm cut open and his bicep fell out. But Mr. Pretty, like I said, a real estate agent, property manager doing his job, he became the centre of all of this focus because of everything that goes on, and that hit home. So when I first spoke to Michael, my first thing was, how can I help in some way with Crime Story? And what I'm glad to hear is Michael said, this is not about me, this is about you guys, okay? It's not about Laing+Simmons so much as it is about them. It is about you, his property managers. So, ladies and gentlemen, today is about you, okay? I've started with a story, and you've come into my workshop, and I've started with a story where I'm the star of the show. and I'm going to hand it over to you because this is about you, and you are going to be the star of the show today. Michael and the Laing+Simmons team know as well as I do about psychological safety and everything that comes from that. It's not just about the 6, 8, 10 hours, 12 hours you do at work. It's what you take home. And all the worries and the problems you have, it's about your home life as much as anything. Pardon the language, but we take shit home. We can't turn it off. It happens. I've spent years trying to do that, and I still fluctuate between success and being unsuccessful. And also, are you aware of the statistics about yourselves? 25% staff turnover as property managers, twice any other industry. Your average career span is 11 months. But what never shows up in stats is that, and it can never be quantified, is what would the industry miss and what would Laing+Simmons miss if even one of you walked out today and left the industry? We can't, all the stats we can do with economics and business, we can't actually account for the value, the knowledge and expertise and what you put into it if you simply left the job today. And that's what we don't want. And like I said, I've had these chats with Michael, and when I first reached out and met Leanne Pilkington as well, the thing that amazed me was it's not just words that's coming from Laing+Simmons about a people-first culture. The fact that they've reached out to me in something that is so different, okay, tells me that they are putting things in place. And it's funny because I saw a competitor's ad the other day. It definitely wasn't Laing+Simmons, and it was an advertorial on the 10 best qualities of a high-performing property manager. So who here considers themselves a HPPM, a high-performing property manager? Are you one? No one's going to say, I'm a high-performing one? Excellent, because I then went looking for statistical measurements to find out what actually makes you a high-performance status. Does anyone know? No, it wasn't set by the IOC. I've just spent 2 weeks watching the Olympics. There was nothing there. Okay, there was nothing there about that. Do you have a centre of excellence like the Penrith Panthers? Do you train at the centre of excellence? No. Do you do WADA, wee control? Do you have to piss into a cup and be drug tested? No. So how do you know this high-performing thing? And everything in that advertorial was all about more. So that you rock up to your property manager and say, hey, listen, I've heard that this company has high-performing managers, and it was all in capitals, so you know it was official. It was official recognition. So it's putting more pressure on you. I don't need to tell you how to do your job. No one does. Okay, you know what you are doing, and Laing+Simmons have that trust in you. But this stuff was all about more, and I started again to sit back and go, wow, what pressure is that going on for an average Joe like me to rock up if I maybe have a rental property and say, oh, you're going to get more for me. Pay the tradies less, fix my place cheaper, get a tenant that's a dream tenant with a non-shedding dog, a non-shedding hypoallergenic dog that can't be bigger than a teacup if they want to have a pet, and all these crazy things. And that's pressure that's going on you. So what we're going to share with you today as we do our investigations is a little bit about how to control that pressure and build that resilience. And I'll introduce you to the triangle, which will come about with knowledge and communication and also that psychological safety. Now, while I take a breath again, I'm going to tell you we're going to be investigating in only a few minutes, so I don't have to yak on for too much longer. But I'm going to share this with you now, and this may be familiar to some of you. As soon as I find it again. And it's about a thing called strengths. So we're not going to go into strengths today, but I'm going to play this description of a couple of strengths and see if any of it resonates with you.
Responsibility is about real and absolute ownership of the commitments that you make. It's an executing theme, and it's about making progress because you made a promise. In many ways, responsibility is motivated externally by the desire to not let other people down and to do what you said you would do. On a team, someone with dominant responsibility can be an excellent accountability partner. They've got a real eye for what the outstanding commitments are that the group has made and who's counting on them to follow those up. If you have dominant responsibility, offer your talent to other people. Make sure that what you're saying yes to aligns to your own goals, your own values, or your own priorities. And don't forget to give yourself time to execute. When you feel that something has yet to be completed and there's other people counting on you for it, you will drive to get it done. But it's about making sure that you have the right amount of priorities on your plate so that you can truly follow through on your commitments. A ranger describes the talent to organize with flexibility. It falls into the executing category, and really what a ranger wants is to move forward, making the most efficient use of available resources. A ranger is in the moment flexibility, thinking about configuring and reconfiguring things in a way that helps us move forward with maximum productivity. If you've got hire ranger, learn how success is defined and what the variables are that are going to get you there. Then know just enough about all those different variables that you can understand how they work together. That might mean getting to know the people on your team and what drives them, or it might mean getting to understand the pieces of a puzzle so that you can put them together in a way that works for everybody. There's a flexibility to a ranger that really thrives when you're in the moment. So raise your hand to organize a big event, or understand what's important to the people around you, and offer suggestions of how they might be able to tap on the edges and make minor changes that really help them move forward in a more efficient way. Restorative describes a set of talents that is best matched to a problem. It's an executing theme, and people with high restorative are especially good at taking something broken and bringing it back to working order. Typically, people with high restorative are more patient when things don't work. They're probably at their best when they get the opportunity and the permission to make the necessary adjustments to really fix something and get it back to where it was in its original glory. I think about high restorative as being especially helpful in being the fix, being the solve, and also being maybe a consultant to how things could be fixed. If you have high restorative, have a clear communication around when they need you to jump in and fix something, and when you might need to let other people be involved in that solution. Raise your hand and lean into particularly thorny situations that other people might dismiss as too broken to deal with. It really is where you are going to thrive and find great energy.
So they're three things that we call strengths. Now, we're not going to go into that today, but I'm hoping and I'm almost betting that you could resonate with something that came out of that. So we got high responsibility. Is your job high in responsibility? Who here feels that there is that overwhelming thing? You're responsible to so many people. Okay. Are you good arrangers and organisers? And is the pressure to always have all these competing interests? And perhaps restorative, where you take on that responsibility and think, okay, this is mine. I've got to solve this. I've got to get all this together and keep everyone in harmony. And I'm matched to problems. So I've picked 3 out of 34 of these so-called strengths that describe all of us as we are as humans. And I figured these 3 might sort of have something in common with property management from the people I know who work in that industry. And the reason I like to make you aware of that is simply that I've had a nervous breakdown. Brenda's had a nervous breakdown. We've gone through years and years and years of therapy, counselling, medication to get back to where we are today. We've had to understand ourselves and know those tipping points and how we work. And that is what has led us to having a greater resilience. So we're hoping that anything that we share with you today, some of the small techniques that can get you on that path to building resilience. And they are process goals. It's not something you suddenly develop. You've got to keep working at it. And a process goal is just one little thing at a time. If you're a golfer, are there any golfers in the room? Oh, wow, no golfers? Yeah?
kind of played before. I have played. Yeah.
So with a golf, for instance, you go out and say, I want to lower my score today and shoot this and do that. But you know what? You might, if you're me, you have 100 shots a game. If you're Tiger Woods, you have 60 or 70 shots a game. And it all starts with each one, and it can be just simply standing in that right position. And that's the process. It starts with one little thing, and then it flows in. You won't walk out here today the kings of resilience and the kings of communication. But if you remember a couple of little things about how you think and how you work today, that will get us on that right step. So, today's plan. In 10 minutes, you're going to be criminal investigators. Flat out. Who likes true crime podcasts? Who loves true crime? Excellent. Who likes being involved in crime? Who likes fictional crime? Everything. So I must have just got bombarded by the true crime freaks this morning then. These are true crimes that you're working on today. These actually happened in Sydney. The reason we use these ones is you won't find them on the net, so you can't go and find a cheat sheet to try and solve these crimes today. They are real crimes. That is actually a recreated 1950 style diner that was in Sydney. Everything you see in the crimes today is how it was when we turned up to investigate it. Everything has been faithfully reproduced and put in the exact place it was. So, we'll split you into two halves today. You'll have a day shift, and we're going to have a night shift crew of detectives. Then we'll swap over a little bit later. You're also going to get to interview a couple of witnesses who may be suspects, I don't know. And you will also have to do a little bit of an identification exercise later as well. So in these orange envelopes, they will stay sealed until later, and you're going to have to participate in a group ID. Now, unfortunately, we did see something in Bondi recently, which was a horrific event, okay? And that's the sort of thing, like the incident I was talking about earlier as well, where you got hundreds of witnesses. And how we all see different things, how we think differently, how we act differently, but then how we have to come together to communicate as a group. So, you're all going to have an individual snapshot of the offender at a particular scene. You'll have 5 seconds to look at it, then we're going to put it away, and then you're going to have to try and describe it to me, and I'm going to be a sketch artist and try and get that description of what you're actually telling me. And you're all going to fight to get your opinions heard. So, we're going to be doing that, we're going to be doing communication, and at the end, I'm hoping that someone can actually solve what has happened today. Okay, it's going to be a stretch. In between all of that, we're going to have a walkthrough about DV. I know you've done DV training and self-defence, but what we offer, and I've done it with child protection and domestic violence with different groups, teachers, lawyers, a lot of people don't know what happens behind the scenes, and it goes into the abyss of police world and legal world. So we are going to show you the processes and what actually happens when a report comes through, and why it can alleviate pressure from you, and why you can learn to let that go, knowing that it's in the hands of other professionals who are trained to deal with that, and that is their sole responsibility, so that you can clear your mind and your conscience and go, all right, that's something else I don't have to take home to my wife, my husband, my kids, my long-suffering parrot who I talk to every night and tell them my problems, so we can learn to just leave that bit aside, okay? And hopefully that can bring some relief. After the crime scenes, you're going to make a report of what you've seen. And again, we're going to look at factual reporting again, and we'll talk to you about NCAT tribunals and going to court, and how that can be no stress at all. So if you get the subpoena in the mail or the email turn up saying you've got to go to court, okay, I'm going to show you a police statement, and I'm going to show you how we make our statements and how you look at it and go, wow, that's so easy. I'm not actually emotionally involved in this, and you can separate yourself again and going back to your job with the other million parts of your job that makes you a high performance property manager, like for that other company, and go to the centre of excellence. So, grab your booklets, flick open to the first page for me, and I'm going to take you straight through to that grid. You are going to notice that you have 8 grids. So 4 on that page and 4 on the next page. Each of our crime scenes is set up in a way that over at the diner, we have markers 1 through to 8, and at the alleyway, 11 through to 18. At each of these evidence tents or evidence markers is a group of exhibits. So what I want you to do is, you've all got mobile phones, take a photo of what you see in situ. So when you first arrive, you'll take a photo of how things are. Then on your sheets there with your pens, we're going to write down our observations. You won't be able to help yourself with that other word underneath it there, inferences, especially my crime podcast people. You're going to be just going straight, going, oh, this was that, and this connected to that, and therefore this, and this. But we want to concentrate on our observations, purely what we see, without bias, without opinion. Then our inferences will come out later with a bit of fun when you're trying to solve the crime. And our inferences are based on our context, our perspective, everything we know and learned and experienced in life. But that can actually cloud our judgment. So we need to put the inferences aside and purely go on observations. Now, can I have a guinea pig for this first example? Come on up. There's so much pressure on this. It's like being back in year 8 and you're the first to give your speech today.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. So what was your name?
Taylor.
Taylor, of course. Same name.
Yes.
Now, Taylor is going to give us our observations of this stool here.
It is knocked over
Ooh.
and split in half.
Oh, well, split in half. Okay.
Yeah.
Notice the teacher's disapproving. Ooh.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting booed already.
I know. Just describe it.
It is a bar stool. It is snapped at the centre. It is leaning towards the left-hand side.
Good.
The base is leaning towards the right-hand side, and it is in a cross.
Yep, give me some colours.
It is red and silver with black lining underneath. Oh, and there is a split under the black lining.
Good recovery.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Taylor. No, I'm going to get you to finish this one, actually. So Taylor jumped into an inference first.
Oh.
Yes. Do you remember what you said?
It's fallen over.
Yeah, you said it was knocked over.
Yeah.
How else could the seat got in that position?
It could have been thrown down.
Yep. How else?
Someone could have ran and pushed it.
Okay, excellent. So there's a number of ways. Could someone have just come home from IKEA with their new flat pack and were putting it together?
Yeah, if someone didn't do it right.
A possibility. And you said it was snapped.
Mm.
Okay, have a look at it. Does it look snapped, or is it just genuinely a two-piece?
It has just come apart in the centre.
Excellent. So they're the tiny things that make a difference. Because of the context and everything that's around. Although you went to a bar stool, like it's in a diner.
But it's like a bar type stool, like it's got no back on it.
Taylor, do we have a drinking problem
No.
we need to discuss here at all? Is this something we need to work through? Okay. So with the context of everything being tipped over, that's why we come to that. It's the O word we don't like to use, obvious, it is, but we still need to put it aside because there are some possibilities. And if we lock into that and say, okay, it's the offender was sitting there and they got knocked over and did this, we then start to follow the path of the offender when it could have been a victim, could have been the part of a fight from the other side of the room and someone has thrown it over somebody. There's a number of reasons why, and that's the simplest. They will get more complicated, okay, and they'll be testing you all the way through. Thanks, Taylor.
No,
that was very brave of you in front of
Thank you.
everyone. So there are observations and our inferences, and they do make a massive difference. And as you see when we do our factual reporting, God forbid any of you has anyone ever been called to court as a property manager to give evidence? Do you know of anyone or been to NCAT and any of those things? Because unfortunately with the rise in violence we're having, you are at the centre of everything. And I was saying to Michael earlier, I think the day is going to come also where legislation will probably make you mandatory reporters as well for a lot of these incidents. I think that's coming. And so you are going to increasingly be put into the spotlight. And what observations does, as opposed to inferences, it takes the worry away. So if, I said, God forbid there is a murder or something serious in one of your properties and you happen to be any form of witness to it, you are not going to be there unless you actually saw it. You're not going to be there saying, I saw this shirt on the ground all covered in blood and it belonged to Joe Bloggs and therefore he's done this and he's done that. No, you're simply going to say, I arrived, I saw a red shirt covered in a red substance. And we say red substance because we don't know if it's blood. We haven't tested it. Even when I went to crime scenes, I've had guys with their guts blown out with a shotgun. My statement had to read that he came down the stairs holding his, what appeared to be his intestines, and his shirt was covered in a red substance. Until I tested that later, even though it's obvious, we couldn't actually say it. And what that does, it removes the emotion. So that's what we'll look at after we do our first crime scene investigation. Okay, so observations, take photos. You will need your phones today, especially for the younger people. Everyone. When you're 50, everyone's younger. Okay, because you will need to research names of places and people, things like that. Very important. Suburbs, names, numbers. If you see a phone number, I just want you to Google it. Don't ring it. They're sick of us ringing that place. Okay. So Google the number, Google places, people. Do your research as you're going. Okay, take photos. You'll work out what to do with your phones and your cameras. Clues are all set, everything's done. As you pick up each exhibit and examine it, if you can just put it back where it was so that everyone else gets that same advantage to see where it was in situ. Brenda, have I forgotten anything with those instructions? Okay, have you done that bit I always rely on you to do and count the numbers and split the room for me? Because I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher. Okay, so where's it going to split?
Well, we can split the outer tables and these two.
Excellent. All right. And I want you to come up with a team name today. Okay, we normally put out team names for you, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, things like that. I want you to come up with your own cool name. And you might want it, you're only 2 out, you might need an extra person on your team. Because you're working in small teams. Because there'll be a prize at the end of it. Yes, there is a prize.
Who's joining us?
So, what's a detective's favourite food?
Donuts.
Donuts, yes. So, we do like to give a Krispy Kreme Donuts prize pack too for the
Taylor's excited.
Excellent. All right, so the 3 outer tables, you will be night shift to start with. These guys, you will be day shift to start with. Okay, now, in one of my claims to fame a couple of years ago, I did have to teach Year 12 drama to a group of girls at my high school just before I left. I'm not a drama teacher, but I learnt a fair bit along the way. So, to get you in the mood, in your left hand, detectives, I want you holding your cup of coffee. Day shift and night shift. It's got 4 shots of espresso in there. It's just a long black with 4 shots of espresso in there. It's got to keep you up and going. In your right hand, I want you to get your donuts. Now give it a dunk. Dunk that donut. Get it. Come on, big fella. Dunk your donut. Get it in there. Now let it drop off. And you get that mushy, porridgey type stuff happening and scull that. Now you're a hardened detective. Night shift, there's been a call go over police radio. There's been a disturbance in an alleyway. The uniform have turned off. They've cordoned off the scene and they need detectives to investigate. Day shift, there's been a disturbance at a diner. Uniform are there. They've taped off the scene and they've called on the detectives to investigate. You've got your stuff. Detectives, the crime scene is now yours. Go for it. I've had 2 detectives leave without their notepads already.
Are we doing which one or both? Oh, yeah.
Yep, you'll swap over later.
Yep. Go get your phone out. Go take
You don't have to follow them sequentially. Jump in wherever there's room. The devil is in the detail. Oh, and you can remove the tape. Oh,
If you see anything of interest.
who wants... I know the Olympics are finished. Who wants to run through like they've just won the 100 metres? No?
I was going to say, was that big man over there just all sharp?
Well, no, I handed it over to them. Michael said, it's now your scene. You're now in charge.
Yeah, but you better
You'll want to solve this in 5 minutes. I reckon I've worked you out already. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Michael, did you know the prize is donuts?
The prize is Taylor's favourite. She's very
I'm solving it.
Yeah, we're learning a lot about you today, Taylor, aren't we?
Yeah.
Everything in there's been sanitised as well, so. Yes. Yep, pick it up, examine it, just put it back where it was. So who's from Austral? Was there someone from Austral on the list today?
Oh, I've got another note.
I thought I saw Austral on your list. No, you definitely had Austral. You probably don't even know where it
I
is,
found
do you?
another note.
Do you? Okay. Oh, well, not many people do. Yeah. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
It's 10 minutes away.
Where are you from? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there's a date.
So where do you work? You. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
I found a name in the
Now, that is chock full of
Do you
evidence.
feel like you
And
need
it's-
to go inside it rather than
So competitive.
outside?
Don't make me get in there.
I don't think it's going to put.
Michael, I feel you're a good leader. You're a good detective sergeant there, standing back. No, please feel free to mess it up.
Okay.
They like maybe.
Oh, I got that. The date and things. Yeah.
You feel like you need to put
Okay, there's one fish. There's a signature.
Oh, good. Excellent. Is it, without moving that too much, is it possible to get that background in there? Yeah. Awesome.
I was going to take it on this and just have it same quality, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I do. One of the things we're actually trained in as well as detectives is psychological profiling, like criminal profiling and that, and psychological. And it tells us a lot about the first bin chickens of the day. Taylor's letting that one go to the keeper.
I didn't even.
I just saying with profiling, the first bin chickens of the day, it tells us a lot about those people. You're very thorough, I'll give you that, that's excellent. Ooh, good thinking. Everyone. Now, that's my favourite one to start with, and that can completely change your thinking. So that light has come from up there.
Yep. And
I didn't even realise that much.
they were having cigarettes. One can be offender, one can be victim. They ordered a cap.
What makes you think there was two people?
So there are 2 cigarettes, there are 2 cups.
What if someone had been there for a long time, they've had a cup, and then they've gone back to 7-Eleven and come back and had a second cup?
Okay. But they're different coffees.
So you're saying that people don't mix their coffees generally? So a cap,
Generally,
someone with a latte will stick with latte? Good. Okay, excellent. Now talk me through the 4 cigarettes that you see.
Oh, 2 of them are smoked right down to the butt, and the other 2 are only lightly lit.
Okay.
So someone who doesn't smoke heaps.
Or
Maybe they both finished
Yep.
cigarette each,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they got into an argument probably or
There you go.
something. They could not finish off the second.
something's happened here. Because what would a smoke be worth? $3 or $4, I suppose, for a smoke? No, you're more of a vapor, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a vapor. I'm not a smoker.
I was only joking.
No, but
Are ya?
I am. I'm not a smoker. I just vape.
But no, they're worth a fortune.
Yeah.
So what could cause them to discard a full cigarette? That's
Something's going on. Like
Yeah.
they've had to quickly move, so they've just quickly thrown it.
and the light. Talk about how the light gets there. So that was from there.
Oh, so they could have been startled. They could have been the person that was like they're smoking, and then that's like someone's shot that or something, and then it's fallen. And
Give me
then
your
it's
give me your phone for a sec.
Yeah.
Just pick that up. Have a
Yeah.
look at it. Now tell me about how it got to the ground. What it's made of.
glass.
Yep.
So how did it get to the ground?
Well, how do you think it got to the ground?
But they would have
Look at the light bulb.
intentionally moved it because otherwise it would have
Oh, they could have had something hidden in it, hidden inside the.
So it's been removed.
Yeah, they've taken
Yeah.
it.
Otherwise it would have been broken.
Would have been broken. So why wouldn't they just smash it off?
Yeah, so they've obviously
Don't wanna make a no-
unscrewed it and there's
Yeah.
something in it.
Placed it. Don't want to make a noise.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. My God.
that makes
So now you've got someone's removed a light, placed it delicately on the ground.
Yeah.
Then you've got signs that they may have been waiting long enough to have coffee and some smokes
Yeah.
in the darkness. Why?
Oh, they're waiting. They're waiting. for
Waiting,
someone.
watching something like that. Yep. And that's if we assume, but we never know. The cigarettes could have been there the day before,
Could have been, yeah.
but they're at this point, and
Or they've
so.
got coffee, so they've waited a
Yeah.
while.
So you've evaluated the cups. Yeah, it could be one person, could be two, likely two. They've removed the light. So excellent. That one really gets your brain thinking that.
There's another E-tag.
How coincidental.
Yeah, it's
What?
Ivan Milat at a... Wow. Do you think that's a message?
Yes. Is it one of his brothers? Was it the sister that he had relations with? Is that true, do you reckon?
What's that?
That Ivan had relations with his sister?
I wouldn't surprise. Nothing surprises me these days. But I'll tell you now, there was definitely more than one person involved in those killings. Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh, you can't do what he did to 8 people on your own. You can't abduct someone on your own. His brother was involved, guaranteed.
Do you know which brother do you think? Like, is there some suspicion on a particular brother?
I can't say because the camera's on. I'll tell you later. Oh, you found Fergus?
Oh yeah, he's my friend.
Yes. So the bin is full of evidence. It's full of information, but it's also full of evidence, things that you will need. Be doing the smart thing, let them sort it out, and then come back to it later. Yeah. Parramatta Eels?
I do.
Oh, good boy.
I do, but probably not this year.
Oh, terrible.
Road Transport Authority. So is that a fine? No information. Given that.
Of it.
I'm not abandoning my back is sore.
Tyler.
I just want
I forgot to mention and send you the message saying maybe you just dress down for the day and
Because I gave her a job offer. There's names in it.
Eva has just made my favourite statement. I don't know what's going on. And that's actually the best way to be. Because those of you who lock in early to a theory, you become blinkered I love that. Just keep making, recording the evidence that you see, because there's a long way to go in this process. Let the patterns emerge later. Just concentrate on your detail.
I will.
And a face mask.
Needle.
Oh yeah, how big's an egg box?
I don't know if that goes in either. It's like
Kind of.
I don't know.
Is that 3 centimeters? Does it say?
And he's a dad.
I'm loving it. Well, yeah, could it be a junkie or could they be a diabetic?
A dog owner
Ah.
and a dad.
Oh. Sticky butt.
They can't be celiac.
Yeah, so
Lots of items.
what are you noticing about the collection of rubbish? They're clearly not a recycler.
They're not. It's all fast food. He has lots of shopping lists with like takeaway pizza to bully and like. But then
Was that a shopping list, or who else carries a notebook like that? A little with food written on food types.
someone
People
who
with
works
dietary
in the food
requirements.
industry,
Yeah, waiters.
they've gone up
And especially if you look at the ingredients, there might actually be an order.
right, but then it might not belong to them.
Yes.
Because it's a bin.
Exactly, and
Finding all of these stuff
It's a
might
re-
not belong to them.
exactly, it's a real mixed bag of rubbish where it's like part domestic, part commercial, and it's in an alleyway with no residential. So the backdrop is as much a part of this scene as what you're dealing with. So have a look at the area. It's industrial.
Oh, crowbar.
Okay.
Is that a blood red substance?
It's a red substance.
Let me look under this.
Excellent. Well worth noting that. Yes.
It's a size large.
Alright, it's an Asian rice.
Any names on that? Sometimes they write it. Where would you normally write a name? No, but you didn't check, so I'm teaching you to detect. And what might they tell you about the type of person, the size of the large? Excellent.
So in reality, that person might have been just a medium.
Oh yeah, yep. Everyone buys oversized when it comes to those things. Yeah.
And there's only a left-hand glove there.
Because there's 2 cups and 2 different types of coffee.
And
This
that's-
is a latte.
And that's important to know too, because
Yes.
look, if you didn't have those lids, it's still possible someone could have been here for a
cups of
while,
coffee.
come back and had another
This
one.
one's latte.
Yep. And because
And this one is a cat. So we have 2 different coffee drinkers.
talk me through the cigarettes that you see there.
Well, I'm a smoker, so let's see if I can work this out. Okay, this person has a couple of puffs and puts it out. This one goes right down to the butt.
That's what I checked to see, like it's like one of those. Yeah.
And that's come from above your head there. That was that light there. So what do the cigarettes tell you then? If you're thinking there's 2 people, what do the 4 cigarettes indicate?
2 different smokers. One only has a little bit and chucks it out. One has the whole thing.
Okay, that's one possibility. What's another possibility? What's a cigarette worth?
That they were interrupted and had to put their second cigarette out because you don't want to waste that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but there's 4 cigarette butts. So the first one they've been able to smoke it the whole time. The second one they've lit up, they've been interrupted, they've had to chuck it and move on to whatever else has happened. Yeah. And there's
Talk to me about the light, Michael.
Oh, they
cappuccino
took
and
the
a
light
latte.
down so no one could see what they're doing. That's why the headlamp.
Carefully done so it doesn't make a
There
noise.
could
They've
have
waited
been
in there.
two-
And they've done that before.
They could have actually come in 2 separate vehicles because that's a Rome E-tag and that's an E-way one. So there's actually been 2 vehicles here. They might have had one initial car and then had a switch car or a getaway car.
The truck that they hired
Yes.
and reversed into the roller.
But they came in another car initially.
That's what I was looking. I was trying to look at this one. And
There has been 2 vehicles here. Am I doing good?
Well, from a teaching perspective, you're doing everything that I expected of you. You're jumping to inferences.
Oh,
which is human nature. We do it.
They're a size large,
Yeah,
but
but were they pretending to be?
but when you buy those,
A
you get
delivery
bigger
person?
than you because you put over the top.
But were they pretending to be
Or
a
have
delivery
they
vehicle
jacked
person?
the truck driver and ripped them out? Or were they impersonating them?
Oh, and this has nothing to do with my
John F.
earlier
Kennedy.
story either.
That's besides
This doesn't coincide with the story I gave at the start,
Oh yeah, no, that's
even though it's an alleyway, completely different.
assuming there's a girl because there's blonde shampoo. So there has to
It could be a
girl.
Bonnie and Clyde situation.
Yeah.
One of these cigarette butts have
Alright, we're gonna keep
Lee
that.
Oswald and Lee Harvey.
Needs as a girl.
They're brothers, they could be father and son. They have a dog.
Boyfriend and girlfriend? Yeah, like
Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay, here's another letter.
What's it say?
Oh no, shut. Oh yeah, it's about their
Chai latte,
lattes.
but they did not have a chai latte. That's a whole.
No, but it
other-
says cap and latte.
yeah, but they, yeah, because they're
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll take a photo.
that one.
Does that they just dyed their hair though?
No, that's where it's
To
got blonde
maintain
hair.
blonde shampoo.
So it's the girls.
So why would you want to, if you're rubbing somewhere, why would you want to maintain your own hair
Well,
colour?
this is their
They
big.
might have changed their hair colour for disguise.
Yeah. I don't know.
See, it's out of my league as well when you start talking about things like I don't know.
Alright, so we're off.
Told you this is why I became a teacher. I couldn't solve anything, and I'm just hoping you guys can do it for me. But the makeup of the rubbish is really interesting because it's out of place, isn't it? We're looking at it like a industrialised laneway. Something behind that yellow door. Does it belong to that? There's, what's that sticker on the bin say? I think there's bits of paper on it. Yeah, well, council bins, things like that, but that's it, again, it looks like a private bin. There's a barcode there. And if you look at the lid, it's not a coloured bin, so it's not a council bin, it's a private bin. Good work. Love it.
I
Ooh.
think they knew what they were doing. They had keys, but they could not get to the door. That's why hence they used the crowbar.
Have you tried the
And
keys
they
in the
were
lock?
Probably,
This is something we're very good at.
I know.
they were probably.
Is the hardest
They were
thing
using the
staying at
drone.
one spot? You get excited, you go, oh,
Yeah.
and that's what a real crime, honestly, it took me years, you know, if I was given a bit to look at a big crime scene, if someone found something more interesting, it's so hard to stick to the boring bit.
Oh, hold on, there's two
Is this the truck driver?
Where are you based?
Like Quakers.
Quakers. Excellent, know it well.
So you got Alfonso.
And they also
Thank God,
had
but then you
a
got
drone, so they were
Franks.
probably monitoring someone.
Yes.
And they've got instructions in here.
From
They've
New
got the
York,
model
and on
number.
that statement
Yep.
it says,
It.
And what else does
me,
it say?
JFK, my address is New York. So this is the victim.
What's the last line?
Don't
That's the
pass
victim. This is the person.
all parts same place.
Or is the hard?
Don't buy all the parts from the same place.
Oh yeah.
So,
Bonnie and Clyde.
So that they are
Lee
hard to
Oswald,
track.
Lee Harvey.
These people.
yeah. So like if you go in and buy, if you were to go into a rural shop or rural supplies and buy diesel and fertiliser at the one shop, it's going to set off alarm bells, and ASIO and federal police will come because mixed together is an explosive. That's why when you go to the airport, they will actually, sometimes, I know from Port Macquarie and rural places, they will scan your shoe to make sure you don't have fertiliser on your shoe. They'll tell you it's because of transmitting diseases and things, but it's an explosive device. Timothy McVeigh in America back in the 90s blew up the whole government tax building by putting a semi-trailer load of fertiliser with diesel on it, and the diesel seeped in and it's explosive. So when you buy certain things together, it triggers security alerts. So with those wires, I'm wondering, have they said don't buy all the parts? It's like a homemade drone, so no one wants to know that they bought a drone, like you said, for surveillance. And a lot of things seem to be gathered at this door.
Yeah.
And there's a shot been there. Oh, good work. Yes, you worked that out, and then you discarded it. Yeah, nice. Competition. Oh, Taylor, love it, Detective Taylor.
Thanks.
You're one of the most diligent workers I have ever seen.
I appreciate that. All this case file of the things that I've been doing for 2 years is going to pay off. Yeah, I keep seeing this. That's it's got to be. That's a recorder, like a sound recorder. So
It's worth. The beauty of that is every single thing that you see is information, and we don't know when it's going to become evidence.
yeah,
And you don't get a second crack at a crime scene. So you have to record everything and see how that plays back.
yeah.
Oh, was that a bit of a cryptic clue there? See how it plays back?
Yeah.
Ah. That's how they caught Osama bin Laden. 10 years of investigating, they caught him with a petrol receipt from just someone coming out of a service station, and it made all these connections over the years and led him right across where he was hiding out, and they eventually caught him through an innocent person buying petrol from a petrol station, and all the intel, all these pieces of information, 10 million pieces of information came together to form a pattern of known people, known places, and that's how it led to Osama bin Laden. We don't know, until we know what the crime is, we don't know what we're actually looking at. So at this stage, I think you've found probably 50% of what, or maybe 40% of what you're looking for. There's some gold that's still in this crime scene. I don't know.
Oh, do you know what that is?
What day? How does it work?
Oh, like it's a construction range.
It's like a hard drive there, and they think
That makes no sense to me.
the stuff.
I don't know why I think it's very bad.
Hard drive.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not matching up.
Yeah.
So that's what
we
we think
think
they've
that
been sitting there
used
for
to hire
months
people.
watching.
You were so close.
What?
I'm just not saying anything.
No,
You had it in your hand and you put it back down. Where's information stored? On the camera.
On the hard drive.
Well, how do you know that that hard drive came from that envelope? And where's that envelope from?
It's from New York. We already got photos of all that.
New York? The envelope?
Taylor, where was this from? Where did we work out this from?
Oh,
I can't see it. I was seeing
oh,
if it was
you know where it's going, but where is it?
Oh.
Where is it from?
coming. Yeah, that's what I was
Royal
trying to work out.
I've been looking for the shipping address label.
Look
Oh,
at
in
it.
the bin. Oh, yeah.
No. Look, where's it from though?
I don't know.
Look at the stamps.
Royal Mail. There was a stamp in the bin.
Look at the stamp on it. What's the envelope?
Royal Mail. Is that England?
It's come from England.
Okay, it's from England.
Okay. So it's a good chance of what was on that camera, because the camera was above here and it's been knocked down. Good chance it wasn't on that hard drive. So where is our information stored these days on our phone? Where does it go? Cloud. Okay, cloud-based storage. So gone are the days of having a hard drive or a VHS cassette in the background here that someone can actually come and steal.
Camera and then you can get access to the cloud.
Oh, I don't know, detective.
Is that why they have the remote?
Detective Anania, go and have a look. Go
We
back.
need the QR codes on the back.
Well, that's July.
Michael, we've cracked this baby wide open.
If you put your phone side on, you'll get a much better view. And so that's going down that part of the alley down there. So what are you saying on there?
Chain the curbside, and then coming from the adjacent street is another person in the truck
Oh, you see a truck.
with a driver in it.
Okay. Can you see the driver?
Yeah, there's a driver in there.
You're assuming there's a driver in it. You can't see the driver in the truck, can you?
Well, the truck's not going to roll itself, should it? There's a lot of
Well, unless it's remote controlled by that device. Yeah, no, you're right. Now
Is it
you're assuming it's a man and a woman?
It appeared to be that.
Appeared. Okay.
Is one wearing a disguise with the blonde
Well, I'm
shampoo?
just saying. I did 2 weeks undercover in a drag bar once, and you can never assume.
Do you have any photos of it? That you might be willing to share?
No.
Okay.
And they both had bags
Watch it
in
again.
the video.
And good. And the truck. So have you got any other links to a truck yet?
There's the higher flyer.
Oh, that's one. There's 3. You need to find 3 links. Spanioli, lunchtime special, falafel, mixed something. Sounds like a Turkish Turkish restaurant or something.
And plus,
Okay, that's important. Channel 8 Scrambler on.
you also had something about that note where it says channel something.
Yes. Good.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
Well,
'cause there's
what
few
is it?
channels.
What do you think smashed into that bollard?
The removalist truck.
A remove? I've never heard anyone mention that as a removalist truck. That's interesting.
It appears to be a removalist
Yeah.
truck.
So what are they removing? And how will you know if that was the truck that hit that bollard? Or the bin?
Is there any more security footage?
No, but there's more investigating to be done.
Guys, if anyone wants to watch CCTV, there's a QR code.
Oh, look. Taylor! Doesn't turn on? Okay, so how might you get that to turn on? Okay, down the end of the room
Yeah.
is a whole thing of chargers. Good.
That freedom in the bin.
So if you find something that's not working, it needs charging, then you go and charge it. Good detecting. Initiative. And that's a landline number, that phone number, PH. So just... Good work, Parramatta. Go Team Para. This might be the only win Team Para have this year.
Would they be planning to rob an ATM?
No. Am I? That's what's behind that door. Behind that door is, it's a nightclub. The owner of the nightclub obviously pushes drugs through the nightclub as well. So everything's focused. I've been trying to get ram raid to try and get into the back of that door to get to him. And this one is connected. I told them no, but it is. She showed great initiative, the fact that the walkie-talkie wouldn't turn on. I said, what would you do in the field if this happened? She said, well, I'd charge it. I said, the charging cables are all down the back.
Oh, good on you, Shani.
We got about 5 minutes and then we're going to have our scrum down. So about 5 minutes. My 5 minutes go a long time, so you're all right.
I just said to Michael, I picked up the glove and I put it on. I said, if the glove does not fit, you must have quit. He doesn't even know what I'm talking about. Shani, if I say to you, if the glove does not fit, you must have quit, do you know what that means?
You're too young to know that.
Shani wouldn't know either.
Well, I do.
Do you know, like, not trying to brag or anything, but I've done a few appearances on the Today Show. They get me to comment on crime and that. And there was a pursuit through Sydney about 6 months ago, and they got me on the Today Show to talk about the pursuit. And the first thing I've come on, and because it's a white car, and the first thing I'm going to go, I'm almost thinking O.J. Simpson here.
Or was it a Bronco?
No, it wasn't a Bronco, but nobody...
See, I know stuff.
But so many people said to me, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I'm going,
Just like I know
that's
that
an
they
old
would have
person.
chased around all the jung trade in Cabramatta.
The what trade?
The jung trade?
The jung.
Jung.
Never heard of it.
No, you haven't. It's Vietnamese for heroin.
Is it? Oh, I've never heard of it.
Yes, you have.
No, I've never heard of jung.
No.
They wouldn't say it like that, though.
No, that's what it is. Jung. Vietnamese for
Oh,
heroin.
okay. I've never heard that. I should, because I'm going to Vietnam at the end of the year.
I thought in Cabramatta as a...
We'd never heard that, no.
You were a police officer in the 90s?
Yeah.
In the roaring heroin?
In the heroin trade, yeah.
Never heard jung.
Never heard of it. The 5T, yeah, all that.
Oh, what?
Jung, no.
Well, I think one of their names is Mahmoud.
What's this?
Because we found a dry cleaning thing that had his name on it.
Did you? No, I think that's just to cover for the white.
You
Yeah.
think that it's just...
Did you take a photo of this?
Yes, I can't read it. I
Yeah,
hope
so-
you as the English
Can't read
teacher
it.
didn't write these.
It's drone C47. It's giving you the channel that it runs through for the camera.
channel did it say?
Separate controls. They've made a control to access it.
Where's their gun?
I know, because they've had a shot. Let off a shot.
In the door. Because when they were saying, let me in, let me in. and
So
then
where's
I
the
was
shell casing? Or, see, good crooks will pick up their brass and not leave it around.
Yes. Did they have to crowbar the door open?
Yeah, yeah. So you tried the keys?
Yeah, they didn't work.
The keys didn't work. What about the lock pick?
No.
And that's a practice lock pick, that see-through padlock there. Even though the barrels come out see-through on, so you can practice the mechanisms and practice lock. Yep.
Oh, that's so
So
clever.
they've had a concentrated effort on that. Maybe out of frustration, they've shot as well as they've left. But everything from the surveillance down there is all centred on this door. What is behind this door?
Well, there's got
Michael,
to be paint or
surveillance,
something
what's
because there's
behind
no
this door?
paint
We need to go back
at
to the
all
surveillance.
in the alleyway, and there's footsteps of paint everywhere.
Do you get a photo of the footprints?
Yeah.
Good work. What else is on that footprint down there?
Pebbles. Yeah,
Pebbles.
like gravel.
Okay.
Yeah, which is looks like it's from here.
Yep, gravel in the road, good. Like I said, it may not do anything, but may lead to something later.
Yeah.
Scan the barcode. No, right. That's an
Where's
actual
this?
barcode.
Even the towel might be important. All right, couple of minutes. Hey? Yeah. Oh, we got a head start today. That's why I was a bit out of time. Actually, ahead of time, which is good.
No, I had all the...
All right, let's grab our seats, folks. We're about to have a scrum down. Come on, Team Parramatta, running last as always. There's no Balmain team here, is there? No, that's right. So, we are about to have a bit of a scrum down. Now, at the end of every investigation, or every day of a major investigation, which is what this is, we come together at the end of the day and we go through our evidence. So we sit around as a team and we go through our evidence. What we think has happened, what we have discovered. So this is where we're going to talk a little bit about our inferences based on our observations. What I love about this is that every team member gets their say. What is so important about this is that it's equal voice. And everyone has an opinion. Now, I mentioned earlier that our inferences come from our context and our perspective, and we all have different backgrounds and different experiences. I'd been in the detectives for a week in my official position, not trained as a detective, but I won my position and I was now in the detectives as a plainclothes officer without the official tag of detective until I did the course. A week in and I'm working on a homicide. So there were 14 people from my office and we had 3 from the homicide squad come out and help us for the first 48 hours. There was a detective inspector of about 30 years experience. He gets around at the end of the day, comes to me, says, "Luke, what do you think?" And I stumbled and mumbled and says, I don't know, sir. I've only been here a week. I don't know anything. I've never worked on a murder and I'm new here. He said, "Luke, your opinion is as valid as everybody else's." He said, "You have different eyes. I want to hear what you've got to say." So I was blown away that he actually knew my name and then gave me the time as basically a 1-year constable who just fluked his way into a detective's position, and he still wanted to hear what I had to say. And that has stayed with me as I've learned communication and also from teaching. What I see in the classroom is exactly what I see in the highest levels of corporate structures. And I was talking to a few people earlier about when I got a group of school principals together on a workshop and also some of the people from their school. Quite often, we work in situations where we have hierarchy and we respect the hierarchy, but there's certain people in certain places that don't give that voice and opportunity to people below them. And what we see in these situations is that sometimes the hot shot of the room or the class or the workplace can come in with all the confidence thinking, "Yep, I've got this." And the person who may have just started, they see things that other people don't. And when they come together and they have that equal voice, that's when we see the power of actually listening to each other and taking things on board, know when to push our thoughts, when to pull back from it. And this is what we're going to do in our scrum down. So Brenda and myself are going to spend 5-10 minutes. We're going to come around and listen to what you've got in your little team so far and hear what you're thinking and maybe shape you and direct you where to go for when we hit that next crime scene. So we're going to have about 10 minutes of scrum down, and then we're going to look at putting our facts into a factual report. Awesome. Hello, team. Now, have you got a cool name yet?
Yeah, we're Miranda PD.
Okay. From the suburb of Miranda?
Yeah, we're from Miranda.
You're all from Miranda?
Yeah.
Wow, awesome. Lovely. So what do we know? Okay, let's go. What do you know?
What do we know? There's shell cases.
We know there's been a kerfuffle.
A kerfuffle, a
Yes.
good old-fashioned kerfuffle. Love it.
Someone was here watching, recording, listening in on someone else.
Yeah. Who?
One of the workers, maybe.
Nice.
It was a plan to try to reconcile something to get evidence, but something happened.
Yeah, like we don't know if there was someone here maybe watching one of the workers. Yeah, obviously it's hiding money
Good.
in the clocks and
As an
stuff.
example, the logbooks with the change of shift.
Oh yeah, you got into that. Yeah, nice.
We don't know how, but it was open.
Okay.
Just opened it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the code was.
Oh,
I think it just
really?
yes and opened it.
Excellent. What was it? One of the birth date of one of the on the ID was actually the code to get into it. Yes. So, but we were just going to say you worked that out. Well done, Team Miranda. Miranda PD.
So was that 2000? Was that it?
There was two different IDs though in the one wallet.
Yeah, 1120, I think. Yeah. Okay, so what does that tell you?
And there was money underneath the tray too.
Yeah. So old-fashioned. Yeah, you slide your big notes under so that in the heat of the moment, like they all know it anyway, but even still, most of the time it would be left because they're so hyped up on drugs and adrenaline that they would actually stop to even consider that. So,
There's a man's shoe.
yes.
And Harvey
Okay.
Lee Oswald came back.
Mm.
Date of birth.
So, who's Lee Harvey Oswald?
Yeah.
Yeah, shot JFK.
Yeah.
But when did he die though?
In 63.
Yeah, in prison. So
But
JFK.
this one's date of birth 2000.
Yeah,
And there's
yeah.
another ID.
I actually locked up, I call him a kid, he was 19. I actually locked up a kid whose name was Lee Harvey Oswald out at Windsor. He changed his name by deed poll, he worshipped him. He was so, I'll tell you how stupid he was. He raped a girl, got her pregnant, still pleaded not guilty. We went to court with the baby as DNA evidence. Still pleading not guilty. You can imagine the look on the jury's face with that case when he walks in. Can you tell us your name for the record? He sits there, it's Lee Harvey Oswald. 12 members of jury just went, dickhead. And this was actually used in this case, yeah, these names were used in that. So,
They picked a lock or something. That's on pickup.
so if the money was left,
Communications was.
what was the money? What's actually happened? Do you think it was a robbery? Not for money. If they've left the makes it's pretty hard to walk past money, even when it's open. So were they after someone or something else?
Maybe because they were recording and watching these voice recordings. They had to be watching someone.
They spoke about somewhere else being
Yeah.
So what I like so far, PD Miranda,
So would it be the recording when they say the rocket's already been hit? Would that mean that it was an undercover
Yeah, that's what I thought.
police
could be.
Someone undercover watching us
or
see,
someone?
I'm going to set up.
trying to catch it. Yeah, he said I was going to set up office there.
And
Yeah.
then the
Good place to hang out. You're in open space. Like in New York, the cops actually have terminals in Starbucks in New York where they can go and plug in so they're out on the street more. But it could be sitting there doing surveillance. But what I love is that none of you have really fixed into a particular thing yet. You're not fixed into a theory, you're open-minded, and that is awesome because you've got a long way to go in this investigation and the witnesses are going to throw curveballs at you. Yeah, it's going to get messy.
Do you think we're on a good track? Or?
I love it because you at the moment you're only talking about solid links. You're saying yes, there is a recording, but we don't know. It could have been, and if it was a robbery or a stealing, then what could they have taken? It's obviously something more valuable than thousands of dollars and a supposedly gold watch.
Yeah.
So what
Fake
could
Rolex, drugs.
And if you look at the back of that clock, how many compartments were there? There was 3, and we had a watch, cash. Could there have been a third thing in that?
Yeah, ripped it aside, ripped it apart before he got to it. So the watch was on the floor and all that. Yeah.
Okay. And don't even start me on the Kit Kat wrapper.
Yeah.
Who takes a Kit Kat to a diner?
Well, that was AIDS, diabetes. Well, so it wasn't just
People rarely get that. You ledge. Really? Yeah. Yeah.
I watch a lot of stuff online.
The sad thing is nothing is normally that interesting in the real world of it. Love it. Good work. Have you done 3 groups to my 1?
Yeah.
Oh. No, I'm going to take this group, my turn, because I haven't worked with these guys yet. I'll get to see them next. What's our cool team name?
Rookies.
The Rookies. Oh, that's with the guy from Castle in it. Did you watch The Rookie, the show?
I'm more of an SVU kind of gal.
Are ya?
Yeah.
What's your favourite one? Is that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I had to stop watching that. Oh, because I worked in that in the past and it was too triggering. Yeah. But I love cop shows. I still love cop genre. Everything with that. Oh, with Tom Selleck? Never really got into it. I like 9/9. That is the closest thing to a documentary, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah, it is. It is so real. Yeah. And I've gone back to NYPD Blue and old school shows like that. Yeah, love it. Anyway, you get me distracted. What have we got, as opposed to what are we thinking? Good. Yeah, that's the best way to be. Yeah, because at this stage you're going to have lots of different pieces, and if you focus in and get tunnel vision straight away, you're going to run off track, and that's good. And I was explaining to the guys over there is that how they actually caught Osama bin Laden was the guy who invented PayPal. I don't know who it was. Bezos, was it? Was it Musk? So how that works, and he had this equipment for data mining, sorting through all this equipment, and the US agencies were so crap at working together that he donated it to them after 9/11 and said, you've got to all get on the same page. And so what they said to all the military and that overseas is that every bit of intel, everything you see, we want you to write down. They saw a guy coming out of a petrol station with 4 litres or a gallon of petrol just to run his generator on. They stopped and spoke to him, made a note of it. It meant nothing, got a photo of the receipt. Doing nothing wrong, but they just gathered information, and over the next 10 years, it went into this big data mining program, and all these connections started to show up. So that petrol receipt led to another person, here, there. Eventually spiderwebbed all the way across Pakistan, Afghanistan, and they found where he was laid up half built into the mountains. And at the time, that officer had no idea what he was looking for and if there was a crime. He was just told, make a note of it. And that's what we have to do when we come to a crime scene. We don't know the value of it because we still don't even know what's actually happened here. So we just take a note of everything. Most things are obvious, but then you get ones like this. You just take a note of everything because you can't go back and have a second crack at a crime scene because it's contaminated. So you just make a note. And for you to sit here and say, I've got these connections, but I don't know exactly what's happened, that's a good way to be, because you've got a long way to go in this investigation and you're going to have some witnesses. And witnesses are terrible. They say things, you think you've got it nailed, and then the witness will say something, you go, oh, fuck. Is that my camera on? Bugger me. And it'll just blow it out of the water completely. It's crazy.
Okay.
So what?
We're trying to work out what time it happened.
Ah, yep.
No, so we've worked out it happened in the morning.
What time do you think it happened?
Okay.
Well, the clock says 9:55, but the battery, it seems that the clock's been knocked off the wall. Battery's been knocked out.
Which would indicate a good estimate. Unless.
Yeah, go on. We need this.
Unless.
I'm really confused.
What if the clock had always been at that time? Did anyone test the battery in the clock to see if... So, it's likely the battery got knocked out and that's the time, but if that battery had been dead for 2 years, they'd never replaced it, it wouldn't actually... Oh good, at least I can trick you with one thing, that's good, you know, it justifies it.
Well, no, it changes everything to be honest, but we thought it happened Friday, Saturday or Sunday. We found a little note to say that there's a shift change at 10 p.m.
Excellent. And it's only open...
And it's only open till 10 p.m.
Good.
So I think Monday to Thursday, 24 hours, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, so common sense will say, yeah, that clock is around that time.
Yeah,
that's good.
With that.
The battery does work, I'll save you the trouble of doing that, so you're all good.
What else is it on the list?
13 bullet pieces.
The money in the clock.
Oh yeah, the money in the clock.
Yeah.
Was $1,090.
What do you know about firearms? Yeah, like in a non-incriminating sort of way here. So what sort of gun would have that many bullets? Handgun, yep. So most magazines would fit about 15. Okay, yep. And you look like you know about ejection patterns. So when they eject, do they go to the left or the right? Yeah, so they'll eject to the right and they'll land about 1 metre. So it'd give you an idea as to where the shooter was standing. So anywhere in perhaps this arc. Were they moving? They're in one position, good. Okay, so it gives you an idea about that. What size were they? 9 mil, yep. Yep, and it says it on the back, and even so you can also line it up on the measurement on the evidence cards as well. So yeah, so 13. That's a lot of shooting. And so, do you know how a bullet works? No. Okay, guys over this table, Miranda PD. Bullets. No, I don't. Yeah, what was the rookies and Miranda? So with shell casings, we're saying they eject to the right. So it gives us an idea as to where the shooter was standing. So from a semi, they will eject to the right about 1 metre. So we'd put the shooter in an arc anywhere around here. But, and I'll go back to basics, and I know some people are fully aware of it, but there's your shell casing filled with gunpowder. That's your firing pin there, or your charge pin. The hammer hits that, the gunpowder explodes inside, and the projectile, which is the actual bullet, obviously is released. So we've had 13 shots fired. Where has it hit? Where has 13 projectiles landed in this crime scene? That's something to think about as we keep. Yep. Well, that's the entry, so that's where they came in. So they've got the counter there, takeaways, that's been pulled off, started shooting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know, how ironic. Or is it? Coincidence or not? Okay, so what are the names we found?
David. Oh, David. Okay, we found
on the card.
What's his name? Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, Harvey Lee Oswald.
So you're two
related to John F. Kennedy.
You young little babies. Who is he?
Who is he? Someone to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
He's the killer, the assassin.
He killed John F. Kennedy. But then he was his emergency contact.
I know.
Just strange.
Strange sense of humour. And J. Edgar Hoover?
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, do you know what he did?
No. He was in America or something to do with
Yeah. He created the FBI.
Oh, did he?
So, we got the assassin of JFK.
Because like that, I need to know.
So in 1961, Lee Harvey Oswald takes out the most heavily guarded man in the world, the President of the United States. He lists as his emergency contact the guy who he's killed and the head of the FBI who caught him. But 2 years later, he died in jail. So what do we know about the ID?
He had
Forge.
diabetes, he had AIDS, and he had hepatitis.
So he's saying on that, we know it's fake ID.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a shooter.
So it wasn't telling you it was with 2 people are legit and the third one's a good. So it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
But
And
he's
who's
throwing
it?
people off.
Any other names?
Dr. Field.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Any other ID though?
Yeah, there was the Virgin.
Frank Abagnale Jr. Have you looked him up? And go a little bit deeper than just the first thing. Open the page and read about him. I think you've probably even seen the movie.
In the video, it's a man got bags.
Michael, get over
Is
here.
it the
No, we think we've cracked this.
Do you? Did Brenda think that? Or did Brenda guide you?
We haven't gone over it completely with Brenda.
Good. Yeah, she doesn't give anything away. I'm the easy one. She just holds her cards close to her chest.
That's women.
I just get excited and want to share. You know?
Michael, we're going to give our pitch to Luke.
It's going to be.
Yeah, so Muhammad.
I won't say wrong.
Wants to move for the weekend, so he went to the truck. They've seen someone.
Yes, that had come off the hire truck.
Whoever it was.
Yes,
And where was it from?
the hire truck. It was from the mascot depot.
Did you go to the ad Transhino? You got to that place and saw it? Okay. But where and what's important about where it came from? What suburb was written on the back there?
Mascot.
Mascot. What's it? Mascot.
The airport.
The airport. And what was the ID?
Pilot.
Oh, okay. See, all these
Michael,
connections
get
and
over
threads
here.
are coming together. I like it.
Yes.
Like it.
Uh,
Are we getting wine? What? I'm going to drive home tonight.
Reach in the cupboard.
that's what's underneath. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I don't want to say it too loud.
Oh, you don't want to say it loud now? You told the whole group earlier about certain things.
Show your CCTV footage, guys.
Are they robbing Al Capone? How'd you get his name?
Junior?
Okay.
Is that red light there strategically, or is that a police light, or is it a red light district?
Oh, it was just there hoping that this room would be much darker this morning, and they have in dark rooms it has a great effect when you come in. It's a mood enhancement, basically.
Was a doorman at red light district massage parlours.
But who was Al Capone?
He had the women that he did, and he also had the bootlegging.
The women he did. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But what I think could be behind it, but they were trying to rob whatever Al Capone had
Yeah,
behind
but
it.
who is Al Capone?
Well, he's an American gangster from Chicago
Yep. When?
in the early 30s.
20s, yeah. He was born in 1899, so he turned it in the 20s. In the movie Untouchables, he was the original Scarface. So,
We actually think Frank and his
so it's
wife
not him.
Kelly.
So it's not him, is it? Someone using fake ID, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
I
Didn't
didn't know
you?
if this was set in the 40s or not.
Oh no, this is modern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, now's about because Frank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
the fake idea of Frank
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Al Capone.
And so and you had Frank?
Yeah.
And who's Frank Abagnale Jr.?
He's a comment
Yeah.
from the same era.
No.
Oh, okay.
So good. He was so good at what he did. Like, you might have seen Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
He's so awesome at what he did. The FBI actually got him out of jail to teach them how to detect him. And what was one of his famous frauds? He pretended to be
Yeah.
a
Woman?
pilot.
So
You're funny. I love the words you just throw out. It's like
I have no filter. It gets me in trouble.
yeah. So keep that in mind. He pretended to be a pilot.
Mascot's in airport.
Yes. And the truck. So why do they need a
Go
truck?
to England.
And whatever was behind that door, why do they need a truck? What was behind that door? What were they? Yes.
In England.
In England, envelopes. See? Envelopes.
Yes, but what is it you want to rob?
I don't know, I'm just throwing out random words like you do.
The package came from England.
You've missed this whole part. I called you over 10 minutes ago.
Yes,
I was like,
Michael, where were you?
Michael, we're going over this with you. Okay? You've missed the
Is this your work wife?
They're our team as well.
Okay. I'm hearing some great ideas come out of there, and, well, not all great ideas. I'll stand on this side and say some great work, great ideas coming. This group, oh, you're dragging the chain with Taylor there, her ideas, but that's all right, you keep going. No. I said you got great ideas, a lot of them. They're on fire. So what I'm loving is people saying we don't actually know what's going on yet, and that is great, because again, it's observations. And again, just like you might be called to go to court one day, you'll never have the whole picture. And we're only relying on what we observe, what we know, as opposed to what we think. Now, what I saw is when we jumped into their crime scenes, and it is natural, I would still get excited at a crime scene when I went to it. And if it was a big crime scene, I would be so upset if I'm having to do a grid search of some boring little area and someone else finds something really exciting. I'd be so upset that I couldn't be over there making the big find and solve it all and do all this. It's human nature, because we like to be right. We like to solve things and do that. And that's why we jump to those inferences, and we were doing that straight away the moment we got in. So slowing that down and sticking to the observations and the facts. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to have a crack at now writing a short factual report as to what we know and not what we think. And I'll share I know I love sharing stories, a very quick one about getting locked in too early to a theory. So we had a guy who was murdered in Cabramatta, and he was homosexual. It wasn't, at the time, we thought it may have been a gay hate crime. It wasn't. It was purely motive and opportunity. So a guy gets out of jail. He goes to Cabramatta to score his drugs. He goes into the hotel, the pub on the corner, and he sits down, and there's a guy in there who makes himself obvious to this guy that he's homosexual. And this guy says to him, "Would you like to come home with me?" Now, there was a rumour going around that this particular local from Cabramatta was rich and that he had gold and stacks and stashes of money at home. And this junkie who came out of jail had heard that rumour. So he befriended him and said, "Yes, I will go home with you," knowing that he was going to rob the place. So he goes home with the guy, gets into his room, but then kills him. Ransacks the house, ties up the 95-year-old mother in her bed and ransacks the house and leaves the scene. I mentioned in my story earlier that they're in Cabramatta, because of all the crime, there's actually 19 CCTV cameras in about a 2-block radius because of all the crime, and that was run by the Fairfield City Council, Town Safe they called it. So we had access to all of these cameras. So we had the offender and the victim leaving the pub. We had a total of about 5 minutes of footage, colour footage of him walking and leaving, walking down John Street, through another couple of streets, halfway home. We had this great footage. So we started our task force and our investigation. We identified the suspect. To build the brief and to continue to gather evidence, because we didn't have enough at that time, we followed this person. For 6 weeks, we did surveillance on this person and continued to investigate him. It took me to all parts of the city, all around town. Had to do some undercover work in a drag bar in Sydney and different things, gathering information. And we built this brief of evidence. Today we think, yep, we've got enough. We had him follow everything. We're about to do the arrest. We're in the car. We're driving into Sydney, into Darlinghurst, where we knew his last location was. Again, we had 2 members who were with us for weeks and weeks from the homicide squad assisting, plus our team of very experienced detectives. We're on our way across town, and a phone call comes through to one of our phones from a solicitor at Silverwater Jail. He'd just been visiting a client. He's on his way out, and another prisoner taps him on the shoulder and says, "Are you a solicitor?" "Yep." "Mate, my face is all over the TV. They want me for that murder. My face is in the paper. It's only a matter of time before the cops come knocking. I just want to hand myself in now and make life a bit easier." The day after the murder, he was rearrested on another charge and was in jail. For 6 weeks, we chased the wrong person. For 6 weeks, we had convinced ourselves that what we saw on that video, who was the offender, we were convinced that the person we identified as a suspect was that person. Then we got into that point where every little bit of circumstantial evidence that we obtained, we were convinced it fit the picture. And we just kept adding and adding and adding to that. And had this guy not made that confession, then we would have arrested this person, and I don't know how that would have ended up in court, but it scares the life out of me to think that we could have arrested and wrongfully incarcerated the wrong person. And even as experienced detectives, I'm glad I learned that very early on in my career. I watched some of the best detectives fall into that trap. We're human, and it happens. And we became emotionally involved, as you do. When you're investigating a murder, you become emotionally involved with the person, with the family, with the community. And there are pressures, and you are driven by that. So that is how sometimes we can make those mistakes, and with that tunnel vision, and make things fit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at a really exciting police statement, which is on your pages there, the next page in your booklet. This is so exciting, it's going to bore the life out of you, but this is how a statement actually reads. I arrived at 10:23 p.m, 8th of August 2024, and I saw a man running from 100 Harris Street, Piermont. His face and skin appeared to be white in colour, and he was wearing a black suit, white button-up shirt with a red coloured tie. His hair was white in colour, he was about 6 foot tall, around 100 kilos, with a large belly. As this man ran from the building, he yelled, "You need to run, get out of here." And he continued to yell this as he ran. He said this 3 times. On the front of his shirt and body, I saw a dark coloured red stain that covered most of his shirt. It appeared wet, and it was darker than his tie. He approached me. He stopped running. He reached out both hands, placed them on my shoulders, and he said, "He's in there, you need to run," before collapsing to the ground. I moved him to the recovery position, placed my fingers on his carotid artery in his neck to feel for a pulse. I could not find a pulse. I watched his chest, it was not moving. I listened to his mouth and nose for signs of breathing, and I could not detect any breathing. I felt his chest on the left side and could not feel a heartbeat. I moved his body to the side, began CPR, and I noticed that his blue suit was wet with a dark, sticky substance on his back. This was on the opposite side to the similarly coloured substance on the front of him. There was a tear in the suit material, about the size of a dime, circular in shape, with the fabric torn and facing outwards. So can anyone have a guess as to what has happened to that person? He's been shot. Yep. But nowhere in there have I said he's been shot. It is, and it is obvious. But as a detective, I couldn't say that. I mentioned to a group earlier that, again, like I've been seeing people with shotgun wounds. This is a made-up one, which is, you notice I said the size of a dime, because rather in bad humour, I'd actually set this up about someone shooting Donald Trump about a month ago. And then when that happened, yeah, I had to obviously change it because it's not really funny. So I had the dime still in there. But the same thing, I haven't mentioned that he's been shot because I don't know. I haven't found the projectile in him. I'm not a doctor. Even my descriptions of the processes, I couldn't say that he was dead if he was alive. I had to say there was no heartbeat. I couldn't feel a pulse. And even the red substance, because until it's tested, as obvious as it is, I can't say that it's blood. When I lock people up for heroin, it was a white substance that I believe to be heroin or cocaine. Cannabis had to be a green vegetable matter. It's really bizarre. But until it's tested at a lab and we get a certificate, when it goes to court 2 years later, we can change it and then simply, and the DPP will say, "Well, detective, what do you know now that to be?" I go, "Well, I now know that to be blood." But that's how it is. It's mechanical, but it is also, at the bottom there, it's unemotional. And that's a good thing. There's no inferences, there's no bias. It's just straight out fact. So what that actually does, that actually has a process on me when I'm actually writing that statement. as much as I'd been through it. That story at the start, when I was telling it about the shootout with the adrenaline, you saw how I started sweating as I'm telling that story. It wasn't just the heat in this room. Okay, I'm reliving it. There's a lot of emotion. But one of the processes that started straight away was when I wrote my statement. Again, the man appeared to shoot 15 times and things like that. He appeared to do this and do that. And it actually starts to take the emotion away. So I'm not right in the middle of it. It puts me as the outside observer that little bit more. I never used to like that process. I never used to fully understand it, but only now as I'm gotten older and smarter, I realise the process that is and how that works. So again, if you're in a situation where you're called something a little bit more than just a tenancy dispute, if there is something that has gone on and that you may have witnessed something, what I want to show you is how you remove yourself from that simply by doing a statement like that, where it's not up to you to solve it and it's not up to you to prove anything. You're just saying what you saw. So at the moment, you've been called to a couple of crime scenes. You're not emotionally involved. You're interested, you're engaged, you're immersed in this. So I just want you to have a go on that next page. Write me a paragraph or a simple statement about something that you have seen without your inference and simply with your facts. So your factual reporting about what you've discovered. Yeah, about this one. So, because I noticed a lot more inferences coming out than observations, which is natural. The hardest thing is to write what you've seen without what you think. Just a little bit.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure this out.
I was told I had to make you do some work today.
Something that you have done here that's maybe taken your interest that you can refer back to.
One of my observations today is that whenever we have to do a little bit of work, Michael disappears. And no one ever hears his phone ring, but he walks out with it. we're going to stop in about 20 minutes, so, and then we'll have lunch, and that's it, mate. That'll be great. Sorry.
Lunch up here for everyone.
I'm not sure what we're doing for lunch. I'll check with Michael. Do you all work together? Are you in the same workplace?
Different office.
Okay, whereabouts?
She's in Oatlands.
Oatlands?
Same company.
Yeah, because they're not too close, aren't they? Oatlands is St George Way, is it?
No, that's Carlingford. Carlingford.
Oh. And you're from Granville, did you say? So that's close enough for you to be Parramatta supporters, so.
No, definitely not.
Please don't tell me Canterbury.
Yes.
Oh. My arch enemy. Are you? No, don't say it like that. No. I'm going to have to say this, I've stopped watching it.
Yeah, I will too.
I saw the.
You guys are close.
Oh, you're killing me. Don't even. I'm not. I promised Brenda I wouldn't start today about it, but I don't. Anyway, see, I said I've been in therapy for years. It's actually because of Parramatta. So. I'm loving the Bulldogs at the moment.
Yeah, they're great. Good team.
I know. It's just
They'll get there.
we're a rabble,
Yeah, you guys.
and then we let Blaze Talangi go. We finished the workshop in Kempsey last week and we got in the car and I hadn't heard the news all day, and then I heard about Blaze Talangi going, and I reckon for the next half hour Brenda's just put the headphones on and I have just ranted and raved, and poor woman, she's been putting up with that for 20 odd years, so.
Well, it's only, how many months in the year is it? You don't talk about it all year round, surely.
Yeah, because I then get ready for. I'm such an optimist that once it's over, I start looking forward to the pre-season training and who we might get, and oh.
My husband's the same. About Parramatta.
Oh really?
Yeah, it does make sense. They know that over the
See,
weekend, yeah.
that's why they're called the better half.
Yeah, I am. Me. And your wife.
I mean him. Oh, it's tragic. Growing up in Fairfield, obviously it's in the Parramatta area, and I was 12, 1986, I was 12, obviously born in 74, and so by my 12th birthday we'd won 4 comps in 5 years. As a kid, just understanding football, I'm thinking, life doesn't get any better. I'm now 50, it's been 36 years and I'm still waiting. It's killing me. Oh no, it's going to take a decade for us to get back. They got me going on football, darling. It wasn't me. Canterbury supporter. Oh, Canterbury's on fire.
Seems like I got a bit of confirmation on that.
Did you know? Or you just guessing?
Brenda, would you say that they went there to do?
Well, it's definitely in that category of an offence of defences. That's an attempt, anyway. An attempted. Yeah. So what was behind the door? But you don't know. You're doing facts. You're not going to New South Wales Civil Administration Tribunal with a head of inferences. NCAT wants facts.
She's our tribunal queen.
Oh, excellent.
She actually
Is it true that NCAT really favour tenants?
Not so much.
No? Okay.
Tenants do themselves an injustice by the time, a lot of the time I find, like, you know how you're in a courtroom and judges want very specific, direct, brief information? Tenants do themselves an injustice all of the time by going, yeah, but this happened and that happened. No, sorry, that's not what I asked you. I want to know. They just want bullet points.
Yeah.
Tenants want to give their stories, so they get really annoying and get told to be quiet. And I'm not speaking to you right now, Mr. Smith. So that's where I find they do themselves an injustice.
Yeah. It's so hard. Okay, 12 minutes. lunch? Downstairs, upstairs?
I'll
Where were you?
ask Sarah, because there should be a function room.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so
So
we're
I'm
getting...
just going to pick it up.
Okay, so we're getting close to that time if you want
I
to...
might go pick it up.
Yeah. Who would like to share what they have written? Oh. Or randomly pull out a fact about someone, if that aligns with you. Perhaps you can read yours out. Who's married to an obsessive Parramatta supporter? So who has got a statement or a paragraph as boring as the one that I had there about the shooting? Because that's what we want. We actually want boring. So who's the most boring person in the class today? Who wants to be boring?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I should say it somewhere else, isn't it?
Because no one else can read mine.
Okay, yeah. Read it out.
It appears the gentleman is sitting in a diner or cafe. He has ordered a lot of food and...
Hang on a sec, can we do that again, Luke? Use the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Ask the question again.
So we're trying to get a statement that is as boring as the one I presented, because remember, boring means unemotional.
It appears a gentleman is sitting in a diner or cafe. He has ordered a lot of food and money is missing from the cash register. Bullets and a a camera is on with a tape recorder, a watch with watches there, there's scratches on the furniture, the man is diabetic and there's a candy bar that has been eaten. The tape recorder is hidden in a book, so he's being secretive. Money is hidden in different objects.
Excellent. Anyone else want to add to that what they've seen? Even if you've done bullet point format and things like that, it's fine. So remember, it's observations, used bullets, a tape recorder, purchased amount of food, there's money left there. It's all that unemotional. A bit like how when we got Taylor up first to describe the chair without those inferences. Again, chair was in two pieces. It wasn't broken, it was in two pieces. It's red, it had torn black cloth underneath it, silver, on the ground, facing a certain direction. Again, the beauty of this is that we are not the judges. We are not the decision makers. So when we make our statements and when we're involved in the court process at any level, whether it's as a civilian witness or if we're going to NCAT or anything like that, what it comes down to is removing that emotion, okay? And we are not responsible. So when we go back to knowing that you probably have high levels of responsibility and that you feel that responsibility quite often, this is one of those ways how we let go and we alleviate that. To know that you have done your part. You are one part in that process. You give your information, you give out. You've got so much going on in your lives and in your roles that making a statement and going to court, it is a big thing and it will play heavily on you. It is a very nerve-wracking thing. After 14 years, I would still get nervous going to a district court trial. Local court didn't worry me, but district court trials in front of a jury, I would get very nervous because there was a lot at stake. Even though I tried to emotionally remove a lot of it, I would still get nervous. As a detective, I often would have the least valuable evidence out of every single person going to court because I was just a conductor bringing everything together. And when you think of it that way, you're just a small part in it. So everyone gets up, they say, what they've seen, and it forms just one extra part in that jigsaw. When we get too involved, and we are emotionally involved with it, what tends to happen, when we write emotionally, like I was telling you about the guy with the investigation, we followed the wrong person. We're wearing those blinkers and we lead the evidence and not let the evidence leave us. When we go to court, if we are putting bias and our personal opinions into it, the judge will basically eventually rip us apart. They'll be very polite and stern to start with and say, stop, stop, stop. I don't want the backstory, I don't want the emotion, just give us the facts. And Taylor was just mentioning that in her experiences with the tribunal as well. They want to hear the facts and they have such a heavy caseload. The other thing is that if you inadvertently put your emotions and bias into it, it's very hard to remove that. So if you are going to be going to court regularly in your job, and you will come across often the same magistrates or the same people officiating, if you go before them a couple of times and you've tended to flavour your statements with bias and emotion and personal things, you will lose credibility, and it actually makes you ineffective at what you do. So it's very hard, once it's in the mind of a judge, once that door's open, to close it again. So if we start unemotive right from the start. As detectives, we were trained not to solve a case, not to build a brief of evidence. We were told to be seekers of the truth. It didn't matter what we thought the person was guilty and all that. We needed to know just the truth. If it fell in our favour and we had enough to charge and to go to court, then so be it. So it was like an inquisitorial system and not an adversarial system where we butt heads, but almost like a coroner's court situation where you just lay the facts and let someone else come to that decision. No bias, we take that completely out of it. So we're seekers of the truth. We don't cut corners, we don't favour anyone, and we don't gloss it up. And it is just a game. As invested as you may be with your jobs and what you are doing every day, it is a game. It's a game where you turn up every day, but you need to go home, you need to have a clear mind, you need to just refresh and not let it all get to you. It is a game, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, and like I said, just treat it, just pretend you're a spectator, you're watching the game play in front of you. It's like being at the tennis, occasionally the ball will come to you, just throw it back in, let it go. Let them keep playing, let the game go on, don't take that personal effect from it. Don't take it personally, okay, because that's when it does start to build up. So we need to just learn that, yeah, it is simply a game. Does anyone have any questions about going to court or anything like that? Do you want to share any of your thoughts, Taylor, about the tribunal and what you have found about going to the tribunal?
Just essentially what I said to you before is I find that it is very factual based, and either party, whether you're a tenant or an agent representing a landlord, emotion needs to be removed. You know, a lot of the time you're going there and you're having a dispute with a tenant that you have disputed for weeks or possibly even months with, and you're so sick of this person and so frustrated by this particular person by the time you reach the tribunal, but you need to remove all emotion and just be there to focus on facts. Especially when speaking in front of a member. You know, everyone's seen Judge Judy and how she puts her hand up and tells you to shut up, and, you know, she's quite extreme with it like that. But members do often feel a similar way, and, you know, if they ask you a question, they don't want a big drawn-out story. They just want their question answered factually and swiftly. I have watched many tenants and even other agents, when you're sitting in the crowd, you know, watching the cases before you, waiting to be called up, people get sort of on a bad side of the member, so to speak, by irritating them by, you know, giving these huge, big, drawn-out stories and emotion and things. They're there for the facts so they can make an informed decision, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's going to lead us after the lunch break, which is coming up shortly, when we start looking at the resilience triangle and communication and conversation frames and that as well. Even without planning, that's a perfect segue for what we're going to be going into. And in that situation, the judge always wins the conversation. The judge has fact, or the judge has law behind him. All the emotion coming at him in that situation, it doesn't affect him because he knows what his role is, and he's grounded in the law And unfortunately, all of that emotion that you can feel, that you will sometimes even be secondhand involved with from your clients and things, it doesn't affect the judge. They're very cold. And if we can learn a little bit from that, we're going to look at that afterwards and how we can deflect with that by saying, okay, I've got this position. This is the position I'm taking in my conversation, and it's part of our conversation management frame, saying that I know I'm grounded in the law. I know the procedures. I know all of the acts that I work within. Yes, that person is coming at me with a lot of emotion, but know that you actually can't be beaten when you take that stance with your legal, moral, ethical stance. And that's what the judge does. That's why the judge wins his conversations in court. He's got the power of the court, which is knowledge and everything behind that. But the emotion bounces off that judge. We'll never be as harsh as a judge, but the way that he deals with that you'll see with your tenancy tribunals and things like that with your clients, it is exactly that, and it bounces off. And I guarantee that judge doesn't go home with the weight of the world on his shoulders. But what's likely to happen is they're going to try and pour their heart out on you, are they? Does it turn to you?
The tenants?
Yeah, the emotion?
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you deal with that, Taylor?
It just depends on the type of emotion. Do you want me to wait for your friend up? It just depends on the type of emotion. You know, some tenants might take the approach of, in a termination type situation, they want to pull at your heartstrings. My children are going to be homeless. My family's going to have nowhere to live. Yeah. We are going to be in the streets. Please help us. Please, please, please. And that can be difficult. You know, I think that we have a job to do, but at the end of the day, we don't want to disadvantage anybody. But sometimes it unfortunately works out that way. But also tenants take another emotional approach, which can be extreme anger or aggression, which can be really hard to deal with as well. You know, I think everybody in this room can say on more than several occasions they've had abusive phone calls and they've had abusive emails and, you know, even threats at times. You know, I've had situations where tenants have threatened my safety and threatened the safety of our office. They threatened to, you know, burn down an office. I've had people I've terminated tell me they know where I live and they're coming to my home and things like that. So I personally try not to let it affect me. I think I'm pretty thick-skinned and I let it brush off. But you know, for someone, especially just starting out in your career, if you've got someone telling you that they're going to physically harm you, your home, your place of work, it can be really intimidating and frightening, but you just have to try to not let those sort of things affect you.
Yeah. Has anyone else had those sort of, I saw you nodding straight away, and at the start of the day I mentioned some of that conversation I'd had with my friend Alex up in Port Macquarie, and I know we're all quiet then because it was the start of the session, and the things that she mentioned, yeah, she's been victim of violence and threats of violence. Has anyone had what Taylor's experienced? Are you getting that angry thing, or is it nothing? Yep. Excellent. So, and you talk about that. Do you ever remember learning years ago that Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Is anyone aware of that? So a lovely scientist or philosopher has come up with, there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's basically spread over a number of levels. And up here is self-actualization, where you understand yourself as a being, as a person, and all of this. Here is relationships and things like that. But the very basis of all living comes down to food and shelter. So what do you do? What industry do you work in? You work in shelter. The very basis of our entire civilization. So people getting emotional. You can't have a relationship. You can't have self-actualization. You can't have all of this. You can't even begin to obtain goods, because this is the level where you start to obtain goods in life and then say, oh, now I've got to think about the future. And that's when you actually, on a modern scale, that's actually when you buy insurance for your house, your car, and things like that. So you can't even think about the future in the middle of this pyramid until you have food and shelter. And we talk about people turning up in their hundreds to try and get shelter, and you're seeing all this stuff all the time, and you're dealing with it. You are dealing with this anger and this emotion. Where am I going to go with my kids? What am I going to do? It is the very basis. You are literally providing that very initial step that everybody needs to survive in this country, in this world. And that is why it is so emotional for you people, and it is so hard for what you are dealing with. So thank you for sharing a couple of those things, Taylor. It makes it easier for me to deal with that. So after lunch, we're going to be looking at this resilience triangle. Very simple. And so a very brief outline is there's three aspects that are making up this resilience. Okay, we've got knowledge, our ability to communicate, and that psychological safety. Okay, and a couple of quick things at the bottom there. Our knowledge is going to be about what we work with, what our legislation is. And when we stand firm in that, like the judge at the court, who knows that he is backed by the law, you know you are doing the right thing, you know your abilities in your workplace, that gives you resilience. The knowledge. I know what I'm doing is right. I know I'm doing it as I should be. So if someone wants to criticise me and have a go at me in my role for not doing something right, if I know the acts and the different things that protect me, allow that to seep in and take that and say, I know, I'm protected by that. I am doing the right thing. Yes, you can get emotional and throw that at me, but I'm doing what's legally responsible and legally required for me. And then we'll look at the communication, because when you interview our witnesses later and we do the communication, that's when we're going to look at how that also builds resilience. You've already taken one little step towards that by writing a factual report, which again is removing that emotion. So that's your communication, your basis, your factual communication, removing the emotion. Okay, so before are we right to head off to lunch? Excellent.
We've got downstairs in the cafe to your right, there's a table set up, and there's all samples upstairs.
Excellent. And look, throughout the day, as you come up with questions, we have some time later in the day that we'll answer any questions about anything. So start saving up some cool questions. The one I love is, has anyone seen the movie Hot Fuzz? Okay. Can I dive through the air in slow motion shooting two guns at once? They're the sorts of questions we like. I can't, Brenda can. Thanks for a great first session, folks. Let's go and eat.